The woman on the platform held her traveling bag with white knuckles, the other hand pressed against the swell of her belly that no amount of clever draping could hide. And Harrison Ellis knew right then that his carefully ordered world was about to change forever. She stood alone as the train pulled away in a cloud of steam and coal smoke, leaving her looking small and lost on the wooden platform of Pyramid City's modest station. It was April of 1882, and the Nevada sun beat down mercilessly on the scattered buildings that made up this silver mining town perched in the mountains. Harrison had come to meet the mail-order bride he had been corresponding with for 3 months, expecting a woman alone and looking for a fresh start. He had not expected this. Amelia Lawson saw him before he could compose his expression. Their eyes met across the platform, and he watched her face crumble slightly before she straightened her shoulders and lifted her chin. She had known this moment would come, had dreaded it with every mile the train carried her west from St. Louis. The letters she had exchanged with Harrison Ellis had given her hope for a new beginning, but she had not disclosed her condition. How could she, in words on a page, explain what had happened? Harrison walked toward her slowly, his boots heavy on the weathered planks. He was 28 years old, tall and lean from hard work on his ranch outside town. His dark hair needed cutting, and dust from the range still clung to his denim pants, despite his attempt to clean up before coming to meet his intended bride. Up close, he could see that Amelia was young, perhaps 22 or 23, with auburn hair pinned up under a simple bonnet and eyes the color of summer grass. She was pretty, or would be if fear and exhaustion were not pulling at her features. "Miss Lawson," he said, removing his hat. "Mr. Ellis." Her voice was quiet but steady. "I imagine you were not expecting this." He looked at her belly, then back at her face. "No, madam, I was not." A long silence stretched between them. Amelia waited for him to turn and walk away, to leave her stranded in this strange town with nowhere to go and no one to turn to. She had spent her last dollars on the train ticket. If he rejected her now, she did not know what she would do. But Harrison did not walk away. Instead, he studied her face, reading the story written there in the shadows under her eyes and the way she held herself despite her obvious fear. He thought of his own lonely ranch house, of quiet evenings with only his horse and his dog for company. He thought of the letters they had exchanged, full of her intelligence and wit, her desire for a home and family. He thought of the child she carried, innocent of whatever circumstances had led to this moment. "That baby needs a father," he said finally. Amelia blinked, certain she had misheard. "What? A child should have a father, a mother too, but you have that covered." He gestured toward her bag. "Is this all you brought, Mr. Ellis? I do not think you understand. I am with child. Another man's child. I can see that." He picked up her bag, testing its weight. "The wagon is just over there. It is a 2-hour drive to the ranch. We can talk on the way. But I lied to you. I did not tell you about the baby in my letters." Harrison looked at her for a long moment. "Did someone hurt you, Miss Lawson?" The directness of the question caught her off guard. Tears sprang to her eyes before she could stop them. "He said he loved me. He said we would marry. Then he died in a factory accident, and his family wanted nothing to do with me or the baby. They said I was a liar trying to trap their son, even after he was gone. My own family believed them and turned me out." He nodded slowly, as if this confirmed something he had suspected. "Then you did not lie. You ran from people who should have protected you and did not. That is different." He offered his arm. "Come on. You look like you are about to fall over, and I could use some company at the ranch. We can figure out the rest as we go." Amelia stared at his outstretched arm, hardly daring to believe what was happening. "You still want to marry me, knowing about the baby?" I want to get to know you like we planned. The baby does not change that. Well, it changes some things, but not whether you deserve a chance." He paused. "Unless you do not want to come with me, I will understand if you would rather make other arrangements." "No." The word came out too quickly, too desperately. She forced herself to take a breath. "I mean, yes. Yes, I would like to come with you, to get to know you, if you are certain. I am certain that you need help and I need company and that baby needs a father. The rest we will work out." He smiled then, a small but genuine expression that transformed his serious face. "Besides, your letters made me laugh. I have not laughed much in the past few years. That has to count for something." She took his arm and he led her to a sturdy wagon hitched to 2 strong horses. He helped her up onto the seat with a gentleness that surprised her, making sure she was settled before handing up her bag and climbing up beside her. As they pulled away from the station and onto the dusty road leading out of Pyramid City, Amelia allowed herself to feel the first flutter of hope she had experienced in months. The landscape around them was harsh and beautiful. Mountains rose in the distance, their peaks still touched with snow despite the warmth of spring. Sagebrush and desert scrub stretched in all directions, broken occasionally by stubborn pines and the glitter of mineral deposits in exposed rock faces. The road wound through this wilderness, following a route that had been established by miners and ranchers carving out lives in this unforgiving country. Harrison drove in silence for a while, letting the horses set their own pace. Finally, he spoke. "Tell me about him, the father." Amelia was quiet for so long he thought she might not answer. Then, in a low voice, she began. "His name was Thomas. He worked at the same factory where my father worked in St. Louis. We courted for 6 months. He was kind and made me laugh. He asked me to marry him, and I said yes. We were going to announce it to our families, but we were young and impatient, and one night She trailed off, her cheeks coloring. 2 weeks later, he was killed when part of the factory floor collapsed. 17 men died that day. I am sorry. When I realized I was with child, I went to his mother. I thought she would help me, that we would grieve together. Instead, she called me a whore and said I was trying to profit from her son's death. She told everyone I was lying about the engagement, that Thomas had never mentioned me. My own mother believed her. She said I had shamed the family and I could not stay. Harrison's hands tightened on the reins. Your mother threw you out. She said I made my choice and had to live with the consequences. My father said nothing. He just looked away. Amelia wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. I had a little money saved. I saw an advertisement for mail-order brides and thought perhaps out west, no one would know. I could start fresh. I meant to tell you, truly I did, but I was afraid you would refuse me if you knew. How far along are you? Nearly 6 months. Harrison did some quick calculation. So the baby will come in late summer, early fall. Yes, he nodded, seeming to think this through. That gives us time to prepare. The ranch house needs some fixing up anyway. I have a spare room that could be made into a nursery. Amelia stared at him. You are really going to do this? Take on another man's child? That baby did not ask to be born into difficult circumstances. Children are innocent. They deserve protection and love, no matter how they came into the world. He glanced at her. My father used to say that any man can father a child, but it takes someone special to be a daddy. Being a father is about showing up and doing the work, not just about blood. Your father sounds like a wise man. He was. He and my mother both passed from influenza 4 years ago within days of each other. That is when I inherited the ranch. He was quiet for a moment. It has been lonely since then. I hired hands for the busy seasons, but mostly it is just me and the animals. I thought having a wife, building a family, might make the place feel like a home again. What kind of ranch is it? Cattle, mostly. I have about 200 head, which is not huge but enough to make a living. I also raise horses. That is really my passion. I have a breeding program started trying to create strong horses suited for this mountain terrain. As they talked, the miles passed. Harrison pointed out landmarks along the way. The creek where he sometimes fished, the old mine shaft that had been abandoned when the silver vein ran out, the place where he had once seen a mountain lion with cubs. Amelia found herself relaxing despite her exhaustion. Harrison was easy to talk to, just as he had been in his letters. He did not push her for more information about her past, and he did not make promises he might not keep. Instead, he talked about practical things, about the ranch and the town, and what her life might look like here. The sun was past its peak when they turned off the main road onto a smaller track. "Almost there," Harrison said. "Just over this rise." They crested a small hill, and Amelia saw the ranch spread out in a protected valley below. A solid wooden house sat in the center, not large but well built, with a porch wrapping around two sides. Behind it stood a barn, several corrals, and various outbuildings. She could see cattle grazing in the distance and horses in a nearby pasture. A creek ran through the property, marked by a line of cottonwood trees just beginning to leaf out in their spring green. "It is beautiful," Amelia said softly. Harrison looked pleased. "It is home. Needs work, like I said, but the bones are good. My grandfather built the original cabin back in the 60s during the first silver rush. My father added on to it over the years." As they approached the house, a large dog came bounding out to greet them, barking enthusiastically. Harrison laughed. "That is Scout. He looks fierce, but he is friendly." Scout settled down. The dog, a mixed breed with shepherd in him somewhere, immediately sat, though his tail continued wagging furiously. Harrison helped Amelia down from the wagon, and Scout approached cautiously to sniff her hand before deciding she was acceptable. He nuzzled against her skirt and she smiled, scratching behind his ears. "He likes you," Harrison observed. "That is a good sign." Scout is an excellent judge of character. He led her inside, carrying her bag. The house was dim and cool after the bright sunshine. Amelia's eyes adjusted to reveal a main room with a stone fireplace, a kitchen area, and sturdy furniture that looked handmade. Everything was clean but sparse, decorated with a man's practical eye rather than a woman's touch. "Let me show you the bedrooms," Harrison said. He led her down a short hallway. "This is my room." He gestured to a closed door but did not open it. "And this one would be yours." He opened the door to a room slightly smaller than what she had glimpsed of his. It held a bed with a simple quilt, a dresser, and a chair by the window. The window looked out over the horse pasture. "It is perfect," Amelia said. "Thank you." Harrison set her bag on the bed. "Why don't you rest?" "You have had a long journey. I need to tend to the animals, but I will make us supper when I come back in." "I can cook," Amelia said quickly. "I want to help. I do not want to be a burden." "You are not a burden, but if you want to cook, I would be grateful." "I am not much good at it beyond beans and bacon. The kitchen is yours to explore. I will bring in fresh water before I head to the barn." After he left, Amelia sat on the bed, her hands on her belly. The baby kicked, a strong flutter against her ribs. "We are safe," she whispered. "I think we are really safe." She rested for a short while, then rose to explore the kitchen. She found the pantry reasonably well stocked with basics: flour, salt, sugar, coffee, dried beans, and some preserved vegetables in jars. There was a good supply of smoked meat as well. She could make something decent with this. By the time Harrison returned from the barn, the smell of cooking filled the house. Amelia had found an apron and was stirring a pot on the stove, her sleeves rolled up and her hair coming slightly loose from its pins. She had made a stew with salt pork, dried potatoes, and some of the preserved carrots and onions, along with a pan of cornbread. Harrison stopped in the doorway, struck by the sight. The house felt different with her in it, warmer somehow, more alive. "That smells incredible." Amelia turned and smiled, a real smile this time. "It is nothing fancy, but it should be filling." They sat together at the wooden table, and Harrison said a brief grace before they ate. The food was simple but good, better than anything he usually made for himself. They talked quietly as they ate, learning small things about each other that letters could not convey. Amelia learned that Harrison took his coffee black and strong, that he had a scar on his left hand from a horse bite when he was 15, that he could play the harmonica but was shy about it. Harrison learned that Amelia had worked as a seamstress before her disgrace, that she loved reading but rarely had access to books, that she had a beautiful laugh when she truly relaxed. After supper, Harrison insisted on washing the dishes while Amelia sat in the rocking chair by the fireplace. Scout put his head on her knee and she stroked his fur absently, watching Harrison move efficiently around the kitchen. The domesticity of the scene felt both strange and right. "Can I ask you something?" Amelia said after a while. "Of course. Why did you really agree to let me stay?" "You could have turned me away at the station. No one would have blamed you." Harrison dried the last plate before answering. He came to sit across from her, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. "When I was 12 years old, a woman came through town. She had 3 children with her and was clearly desperate. She asked my mother for work, for anything. My father wanted to turn her away. He said we did not need help and could not afford extra mouths to feed, but my mother insisted. She said the children's faces would haunt her if she sent them away." He paused, remembering. "That woman, Sarah, worked for us for 2 years. Her children played with me, helped with chores. Sarah was a hard worker and grateful for the chance. Eventually, she saved enough to buy a small house in town and started a successful laundry business. Those 2 years she spent with us, my mother said it was the best thing she ever did, giving that family a chance. What happened to them? Sarah still runs the laundry in Pyramid City. Her oldest son works in one of the mines. The other 2 moved to California. They all turned out fine because someone gave them a chance when they needed it most." He looked at Amelia directly. "I learned from my mother that kindness is never wasted. When I saw you on that platform, afraid and alone, I heard her voice in my head asking what kind of man I wanted to be. The answer was easy." Amelia's eyes filled with tears. "I do not know how to thank you. You do not need to thank me. We are helping each other. I need a partner, someone to share this life with. You need a safe place for you and your baby. We will figure out the rest together." Over the next few days, they fell into a rhythm. Harrison taught Amelia about the ranch, showing her how everything worked. She met the cattle, learned to identify the different horses, and discovered where the chickens nested. She was not used to ranch life, but she was a quick learner and not afraid of hard work. Harrison found himself watching her as she fed the chickens or hung laundry on the line, the wind catching her skirts and hair. She was beautiful, he realized, and brave in a quiet way that he admired. Amelia, for her part, found herself increasingly drawn to Harrison. He was patient and kind, never pushing her but always there if she needed help. She watched him work with the horses, saw how gentle he was with the animals, and imagined him holding her baby with the same careful tenderness. The thought made her chest tight with an emotion she was not quite ready to name. A week after her arrival, Harrison drove her into Pyramid City to meet some of the townspeople and pick up supplies. The town was small, really just a main street with a general store, a saloon, a church, a doctor's office, and a few other establishments. The population had shrunk since the silver boom days, but enough mining continued to keep the town alive. At the general store, they encountered Sarah running the attached laundry service. She was a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and capable hands. Harrison introduced Amelia, and Sarah's gaze went immediately to Amelia's belly, then to her face. Whatever she saw there made her smile warmly. "Welcome to Pyramid City," Sarah said, taking Amelia's hand. "Harrison is a good man. You are in good hands." "Thank you," Amelia said, grateful for the acceptance. They also met Dr. James Fletcher, an older man with silver hair and a no-nonsense manner. Harrison had insisted they stop by so the doctor could check on Amelia and the baby. In the doctor's office, after examining Amelia, Dr. Fletcher nodded approvingly. "Everything seems fine. The baby is a good size, heartbeat is strong. I would say you have about 3 months left, maybe a bit less. Are you experiencing any problems?" "No, sir. Just the usual tiredness and some back pain. Normal enough. Take it easy, eat well, and get plenty of rest. Harrison, make sure she does not overdo it. No heavy lifting." "I will make sure," Harrison promised. As they left the doctor's office, they nearly collided with a tall, thin woman with sharp features and a disapproving expression. She looked Amelia up and down with obvious distaste. "Harrison Ellis, I heard you had brought a woman to your ranch." I had hoped the rumors were exaggerated. Harrison's jaw tightened. "Good afternoon, Constance. This is Amelia Lawson, my fiancée. Amelia, this is Constance Winters. Her husband owns the largest mine in the area." "Fiancée," Constance's eyes narrowed. "How progressive of you, taking in a woman in her condition." Amelia felt her cheeks burn, but Harrison stepped closer to her, his hand going to the small of her back in a protective gesture. "Our business is our own, Constance. Now, if you will excuse us, we have shopping to complete." He guided Amelia away, but not before she heard Constance say to her companion, "Scandalous. That child is clearly not his, and he parades her through town as if she has done nothing wrong." In the general store, Amelia was quiet as they gathered supplies. Harrison noticed her withdrawal and waited until they were back in the wagon before speaking. "Do not let Constance bother you. She is bitter about her own life and takes it out on everyone else. She is right, though. People will talk. Let them talk. Anyone whose opinion matters will judge you by your character, not your circumstances." He took her hand, a bold move that surprised them both. "I meant what I said. You are my fiancée if you are willing. We do not have to rush into marriage if you are not ready, but I want people to know you are under my protection." Amelia looked at their joined hands. Harrison's was calloused from work, warm and strong around hers. "You have already done so much for me. I do not want you to feel obligated to marry me." "I do not feel obligated, I feel hopeful." He met her eyes. "These past days with you at the ranch, it has felt right. I enjoy your company, Amelia. I like talking with you, sharing meals with you, seeing you make that house into a home. I would be proud to call you my wife whenever you are ready." Her heart was beating fast. "I enjoy your company too, very much. But Harrison, I need you to understand something. The baby, it will always be a reminder of Thomas. I loved him and I will always carry that with me. I know. I am not asking you to forget him or pretend that part of your life did not happen. I am just asking for a chance to build something new with you, to give that baby a family and a home. What if I cannot love you the way I loved him? What if my heart is too broken?" Harrison squeezed her hand gently. "Hearts are tougher than we think. They can hold more than one love, more than one story. I am not competing with a ghost, Amelia. I am just offering you a future." She thought about this as they drove back to the ranch. The landscape rolled past, familiar now after just a week. She thought about the house waiting for them, about Scout who would greet them with his wagging tail, about the chickens she had already named and the horses Harrison was teaching her to ride. She thought about the baby growing inside her and what kind of life she could offer this child. She thought about Harrison, his steady kindness and quiet strength. That night after supper, she found him on the porch playing his harmonica. The melody was sweet and a little sad, drifting out over the darkening valley. She sat in the chair beside him and waited until he finished. "That was beautiful," she said. "My father taught me. He said every man should know how to make music, even if it is just a simple tune." "Harrison, I have been thinking about what you said, about marriage." He lowered the harmonica, his expression careful. "And I would like to marry you, not because I feel I have to, but because I want to. You have shown me more kindness than anyone in my life, and I believe we could be happy together. I cannot promise I will be a perfect wife, but I can promise I will try." A smile spread across Harrison's face, genuine and delighted. "That is all anyone can promise, to try." He reached for her hand again, and this time she met him halfway. "We will do this right. I will talk to Pastor Williams tomorrow, see when he can perform the ceremony. Do you want a big wedding?" "No," Amelia said quickly. "Just something small, simple. I do not need a crowd." "Small and simple it is. Maybe just Sarah and Dr. Fletcher as witnesses." "That sounds perfect." They were married 3 days later in the small church in Pyramid City. Amelia wore a dress she had made herself from fabric Harrison had bought her, a simple blue cotton that brought out the color of her eyes. Sarah had helped her with her hair, pinning it up with small white flowers. Harrison wore his best shirt and pants, his hair neatly combed, and he could not stop smiling. Pastor Williams was an elderly man who had seen his share of unusual weddings in this rough country. He did not judge the obvious pregnancy, just smiled kindly at both of them and spoke about love and commitment and building a life together. When Harrison slipped a simple gold band onto Amelia's finger, she felt tears slide down her cheeks. "I promise to protect you and honor you," Harrison said, his voice low and sincere. "I promise to be a good father to your child and a good husband to you. I promise to work hard to make you happy every day for the rest of my life." Amelia's voice shook as she made her own vows. "I promise to be a good wife and partner to you. I promise to help you build this life we are starting. I promise to respect you and care for you and make our house a true home." When Pastor Williams pronounced them husband and wife, Harrison kissed her gently, a sweet brush of lips that held promise of more. Sarah and Dr. Fletcher congratulated them, and Sarah had brought a cake she had baked for the occasion. They ate it in the church, laughing and talking, and Amelia realized this small gathering felt more genuine than the large wedding she had once imagined having with Thomas. This was real and true, built on honesty and hope rather than youthful fantasy. Driving back to the ranch as the sun set, Amelia sat close to Harrison on the wagon seat. He put his arm around her and she leaned against his shoulder, feeling safe and content. "What are you thinking?" Harrison asked. "That I am grateful, that I am happy, that I never expected to feel this way again." "What way?" "Hopeful." At the ranch, Harrison carried her over the threshold, making her laugh. Scout barked and danced around them, sensing the celebratory mood. Harrison set her down gently in the main room, suddenly looking uncertain. "Amelia, I know this is our wedding night, but I do not expect anything. Your room is still yours. We can take things slow." She touched his face, feeling the slight roughness of his jaw. "I would like to be a true wife to you, Harrison, if you want that too." "I want that more than anything, but only if you are sure. I will not rush you, I am sure." He kissed her then, deeper than he had at the church, and she felt warmth spread through her body. He was gentle and patient, leading her to his room, helping her with the buttons of her dress. They came together in the darkness with a tenderness that surprised them both, learning each other's bodies, building something new. Afterward, lying in his arms, Amelia felt the baby kick strongly. Harrison's hand was on her belly, and he laughed in delight when he felt the movement. "Strong one, is it not?" he said. "Very strong. I think this baby is going to keep us on our toes. I cannot wait to meet him, or her." Amelia rolled to face him, able to see his features in the moonlight streaming through the window. "You really mean that, do not you? You are truly happy about the baby." "I am happy about all of it. You, the baby, this new life we are building. I know it started in an unusual way, but I believe we are going to be happy together, Amelia. I truly do." She kissed him, pouring gratitude and growing affection into the gesture. She was not sure yet if what she felt was love, not the consuming passion she had felt for Thomas, but it was something warm and real and growing stronger every day. The weeks that followed were some of the happiest of Amelia's life. She settled fully into her role as Harrison's wife, learning the rhythms of ranch life. Harrison was patient and supportive, never making her feel inadequate when she struggled with something new. He taught her to ride, finding her a gentle mare and showing her the boundaries of their property. He taught her about the cattle, explaining his plans for expanding the herd. Most of all, he made her laugh with his dry humor and steady presence. As summer came on strong and hot, Amelia's belly grew larger. She moved more slowly now, tiring easily in the heat. Harrison insisted she rest during the hottest parts of the day, taking on more of the indoor chores himself. He would often find her on the porch in the evening, and he would sit with her, talking about their day or playing his harmonica while she sewed baby clothes. They had converted the spare room into a nursery, painting it a cheerful yellow and building a cradle from wood Harrison had been saving. Amelia made quilts and tiny gowns, her hands flying over the fabric. Sarah visited regularly, bringing supplies and advice. She had raised 3 children and was a wealth of information about what to expect. In mid-August, as the summer heat reached its peak, Amelia felt the first pains. She was in the kitchen preparing breakfast when a tightness gripped her belly, different from the Braxton Hicks contractions she had been experiencing for weeks. She gripped the counter, breathing through it. Harrison came in from the morning chores to find her pale and sweating. "Amelia." "Is it time?" "I think so. The pains are still far apart, but they feel different." "I am going for Dr. Fletcher." "No, not yet. First babies take a long time, or so Sarah says. Let us wait a bit and see how things progress." But by midday, the contractions were coming closer together and stronger. Harrison saddled his fastest horse and rode hard for town, returning with Dr. Fletcher and Sarah in his wagon. By the time they arrived, Amelia was in serious labor, the pains intense and frequent. Sarah took charge, having Harrison boil water and gather clean linens while she helped Amelia into the bedroom. Dr. Fletcher examined her and nodded approvingly. "Everything looks good. This baby is ready to come. It should not be too much longer now." It was another 4 hours of hard labor, with Amelia gripping Sarah's hands and crying out with the pain. Harrison paced in the main room, jumping every time he heard her cry out. He had helped birth foals and calves, but this was different. This was his wife, suffering to bring new life into the world, and he felt helpless. Finally, as the sun was beginning to set, he heard a new sound. The thin, outraged wail of a newborn baby. He started toward the bedroom, but Sarah emerged, smiling. "You have a daughter," she said. "A beautiful, healthy daughter, and Amelia did wonderfully." Harrison pushed past her gently, needing to see for himself. Amelia was propped up in bed, exhausted and sweaty but smiling. In her arms was a tiny bundle, a red-faced baby with a shock of dark hair. "Harrison, come meet your daughter." He approached slowly, almost reverently. The baby was so small, her features still scrunched from the trauma of birth, but she was perfect from her tiny fingers to her little nose. "Can I hold her?" he asked. Amelia passed the baby to him, and Harrison cradled her carefully. She was lighter than he expected, fragile and strong all at once. As he looked down at her, she opened her eyes, dark blue and unfocused, and something shifted in his chest. This was his daughter, not by blood perhaps, but by choice and love. "What should we name her?" Amelia asked. They had discussed names but never settled on one. Harrison looked at the baby, then at his wife. "What about Hope? It feels right." Amelia's eyes filled with tears. "Hope Ellis. Yes, that is perfect." Dr. Fletcher checked both mother and baby, declared them healthy, and left instructions for the next few days. Sarah stayed the night to help, setting up a pallet in the main room so Harrison could sleep in his own bed near Amelia and the baby. That first night, Harrison woke every time Hope fussed. He watched Amelia feed her, marveling at how natural she was with the baby despite this being her first time. When Hope would not settle, he walked her around the room, humming softly until she calmed. By morning, he was exhausted but happier than he could remember being in years. Over the next weeks, they adjusted to life with a newborn. Hope was a good baby overall, but she had her fussy moments, usually in the evening. Harrison learned to help with everything: changing diapers, soothing a crying baby, even washing the endless stream of soiled clothes and linens. He did it all without complaint, falling more in love with his daughter every day. Amelia watched him with growing emotion. This man who had married her out of kindness was proving to be an extraordinary father. He sang to Hope, talked to her as if she understood, and treated her as his own flesh and blood. When people in town asked about the baby, he introduced her with pride as his daughter, never qualifying or explaining. One evening, about 6 weeks after Hope's birth, Amelia and Harrison sat together on the porch. Hope was asleep in her cradle inside, and they could hear her soft breathing through the open window. The night was cool and clear, stars brilliant overhead. "Harrison, can I tell you something?" Amelia asked. "Always. I love you." He turned to look at her, surprise and joy warring on his face. "You do." "I do. I have been fighting it, feeling guilty about it, thinking I was betraying Thomas's memory. But I realize now that loving you does not diminish what I felt for him. It is just different. What I had with Thomas was the passionate love of youth. What I have with you is deeper, built on respect and partnership and daily choosing each other. I love you, Harrison Ellis. I love the man you are, the father you have become, the husband you have been." Harrison pulled her close, kissing her deeply. "I have loved you for weeks now, but I was afraid to say it. I did not want to pressure you or make you feel you owed me those words. But Amelia, I do love you. I love your strength and your kindness and the way you have made this house a home. I love watching you with Hope. I love everything about you." They held each other as the stars wheeled overhead, and Amelia felt a completeness she had never expected to find. Her life had taken such a strange path, full of heartbreak and loss, but it had led her here, to this good man and this new family. As Hope grew, she became the center of their world. She was a happy baby, quick to smile and curious about everything. Harrison doted on her shamelessly, spending every spare moment with her. He took her to the barn to see the horses, held her while he did simple chores, and talked to her constantly. Amelia would watch them together and feel her heart swell. When Hope was 6 months old, Amelia realized she was pregnant again. She told Harrison over breakfast one morning, nervous about how he would react. They had not planned for another baby so soon, but Harrison's face lit up. Really? Another baby? Yes, I think it happened around Hope's baptism. Are you happy? Happy? Amelia, I am thrilled. Hope needs siblings. I always wanted a big family. You are not worried about the added expense, the extra work. He came around the table and pulled her into his arms. We will manage, we always do. This ranch is doing well, better than it has in years. I think you bring me luck. The second pregnancy was easier than the first, perhaps because Amelia was not stressed and afraid. She was healthy and happy, well fed and cared for. Harrison was attentive, taking on more of her chores as she grew larger and making sure she rested. Hope was walking by the time her sibling was born, getting into everything with toddler enthusiasm. She was there, playing with blocks on the floor when Amelia's water broke in early spring. This labor went faster than the first, and by the time Dr. Fletcher arrived, the baby was almost ready to be born. This time, Harrison stayed in the room, holding Amelia's hand through the contractions. When their son was born, red-faced and wailing loudly, Harrison cut the cord himself, his hands shaking slightly. A boy, Dr. Fletcher announced. A big, healthy boy. They named him Samuel after Harrison's father. Samuel was different from Hope, more demanding and energetic from the start. But Harrison loved him just as fiercely. He now had 2 children, and though only one was his by blood, he loved them equally and without reservation. Life on the ranch was full and busy. Amelia's days were consumed with caring for 2 small children, cooking, cleaning, and helping Harrison when she could. But she was happy, happier than she had ever imagined possible. She had a husband who loved and respected her, healthy children, and a home that felt safe and warm. As the children grew, Harrison taught them about the ranch. Hope, despite being the elder, was quieter and more thoughtful. She loved the horses best and would spend hours in the barn, talking to them and learning to care for them. Samuel was louder and more reckless, always getting into mischief. He preferred the cattle, liking the adventure of riding out to check on them. When Hope was 5 years old, she asked Amelia a question one day while they were baking bread together. "Mama, why do I look different from Samuel and Papa?" Amelia's hands stilled in the dough. She had known this conversation would come eventually. She looked at her daughter, who had her auburn hair and green eyes, so different from Harrison's dark coloring that Samuel had inherited. "Come, sit with me, sweetheart." They sat together at the table, and Amelia chose her words carefully. "You know how much Papa loves you, right?" "Yes, Papa loves me best of all." It was said with a child's innocent certainty. Amelia smiled. "Papa loves you and Samuel exactly the same, but you are right that you look different. That is because before I married Papa, I was engaged to another man. His name was Thomas. He was going to be my husband, but he died before we could marry. You grew in my belly before Thomas died, which means he was your first father, but he never got to meet you." Hope's brow furrowed. "So Papa is not my real Papa. He is absolutely your real Papa. He has been your Papa since before you were born. He chose to be your father, which makes him very real indeed. Some children get fathers because of blood. You got one because of love. That makes you very lucky. What happened to my first father? He died in an accident at his work. He would have loved you very much if he had lived, but he did not get that chance. But then I came here and I met Papa, and he said you needed a father, so he became your Papa and has been ever since." Hope thought about this seriously. "I am glad Papa is my Papa. I would not want anyone else." "Me either, sweetheart. Me either." That night, after the children were asleep, Amelia told Harrison about the conversation. He was quiet for a moment, then said, "Do you think we should tell her more about Thomas as she gets older?" "I think so, yes. She should know her heritage, where she came from. but I want her to always know that you are her father in every way that matters." "She is my daughter," Harrison said firmly. "Nothing will ever change that. I held her minutes after she was born. I walked her through her first night. I taught her to ride. I am her father. I know you are. You are the best father I could have asked for my children." As the years passed, the ranch prospered. Harrison's horse breeding program became well known throughout Nevada, and buyers came from as far as California to purchase his animals. He hired more permanent help, good men who became almost like family. The house was expanded, adding more bedrooms and a larger kitchen. Hope grew into a thoughtful, gentle girl with a gift for working with horses. By the time she was 10, she could train a horse as well as any of the ranch hands. Harrison was endlessly proud of her. Samuel, now 8, was more interested in school and books, surprising everyone. He talked about maybe becoming a lawyer someday, defending people who needed help. Amelia and Harrison had 2 more children, daughters they named Grace and Ruth. The house was full of noise and laughter, chaos and love. Every evening, the family gathered for supper, sharing stories about their day. Harrison and Amelia would catch each other's eye across the table, silently marveling at the life they had built. On Hope's 18th birthday, Harrison gave her a special gift, a beautiful mare from his best breeding stock. "She is yours," he told his daughter, "to start your own breeding program if you want, or just to love. You have earned her." Hope threw her arms around him, tears in her eyes. "Thank you, Papa, for everything, not just the horse, but for being my father. Mama told me about Thomas, about how you chose to be my papa. I want you to know that I could not have asked for a better father. I love you so much." Harrison held his daughter close, emotion thick in his throat. "You have been one of the greatest joys of my life from the moment I first held you. I am so proud of the woman you are becoming." Later that night, at the party they threw for Hope, Amelia stood with Harrison watching their children. Hope was dancing with one of the ranch hands, a good young man named Peter who had been making eyes at her for months. Samuel was showing off his card tricks to Grace and Ruth, making them laugh. Friends and neighbors filled the house and spilled onto the porch, celebrating. "We did good," Amelia said softly. Harrison pulled her close. "We did very good, better than I ever dreamed that day at the train station. Do you ever regret it, taking on another man's child, all the complications that came with it?" "Not for one single second. Amelia, you and the children are the best thing that ever happened to me. That day I saw you on the platform, scared and pregnant and trying so hard to be brave, I made the best decision of my life. I said that baby needs a father, and I got to be that father. How could I ever regret that?" She kissed him, tasting the sweetness of years together, of challenges faced and overcome, of love built day by day through small choices and big commitments. A few years later, Hope married Peter in the same church where Harrison and Amelia had wed. It was a bigger celebration this time, with half the county in attendance. Hope was radiant in her white dress, and Peter could not stop smiling. When Harrison walked his daughter down the aisle, he thought back to that tiny baby he had first held 19 years ago. She had grown into a remarkable woman, kind and strong and capable. At the reception, Harrison danced with Hope. "Are you happy?" he asked her. "So happy, Papa. Peter is a good man. You taught me what to look for in a husband. I taught you. You showed me by how you treat Mama, how you have always treated her, with respect and kindness and love. That is what I wanted for myself, and I found it in Peter." Harrison's eyes were suspiciously bright. "That is the best compliment you could have given me." As the years continued to pass, Harrison and Amelia grew older together. They became grandparents when Hope and Peter had their first child, a boy they named Thomas Harrison, honoring both the man who had been Hope's biological father and the man who had raised her. Amelia cried when she heard the name, touched by her daughter's thoughtfulness. Samuel did become a lawyer, moving to Carson City to practice, but coming home often to visit. He married a teacher named Margaret, and they had 3 children who loved visiting the ranch. Grace married a rancher from the next county, and Ruth became a teacher in Pyramid City. Through it all, Harrison and Amelia remained each other's constant. They worked side by side on the ranch, raised their children and enjoyed their grandchildren, and loved each other more with each passing year. The passion of youth had mellowed into something deeper and more enduring, a love built on shared experiences and unwavering commitment. On their 25th wedding anniversary, Harrison surprised Amelia with a trip to San Francisco. It was the first time either of them had left Nevada in years. They stayed in a fancy hotel, ate in restaurants, and walked along the waterfront holding hands like young lovers. "I never thought my life would turn out like this," Amelia said one evening as they watched the sun set over the bay. "When I stepped off that train, I was so afraid. I had no idea that the terrifying moment would lead to such happiness. I knew the moment I saw you that my life was about to change. I just did not know how much or how wonderful it would be." Harrison took her hand, his thumb rubbing over her wedding ring, now worn smooth after 25 years. "You made me believe in love again, Amelia. After my parents died, I was just going through the motions. Then you arrived, and suddenly I had a reason to make the ranch better, to build something lasting. You gave me a family and a purpose. You saved me," Amelia said simply. "You and your generous heart. When you said that baby needs a father, you changed everything. You gave Hope a father, me a husband, and both of us a home. I will never stop being grateful for that." They renewed their vows in a small ceremony back in Pyramid City, surrounded by their children and grandchildren. Pastor Williams had long since passed, but the new pastor was a kind young man who understood the significance of the moment. As Harrison and Amelia spoke their vows again, older and grayer but no less committed, there was not a dry eye in the church. As they entered their 60s, Harrison and Amelia gradually turned over the running of the ranch to Hope and Peter, who had been managing it alongside them for years. Samuel helped with the legal side, ensuring everything was properly documented. The ranch was thriving, now one of the largest and most successful in the region. Harrison and Amelia built a smaller house on the property, just big enough for the two of them. They spent their days in comfortable companionship, tending a garden, taking rides through the property they loved, and spoiling their growing number of grandchildren. Harrison still played his harmonica in the evenings, and Amelia still sewed, now making quilts for each new grandchild. One evening, sitting on the porch of their little house with Scout's great-great-grandson at their feet, they watched Hope working with a young horse in the corral. She moved with confidence and skill, and the horse responded to her gentle guidance. "She is so like you," Amelia observed. "Patient and kind with the animals. She has your determination, though. When she sets her mind to something, nothing stops her." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Amelia said, "Harrison, I want you to know something. What I felt for Thomas was real, but it was the love of a girl who did not really know herself or the world yet. What I feel for you is the love of a woman who has lived and learned and chosen. You are the love of my life, the great romance of my story. I need you to know that." Harrison turned to her, taking both her hands in his. "Amelia Ellis, you have made every day of the past decades a gift. I have loved you since the day you stepped off that train, and I will love you until my last breath and beyond. You are my heart, my home, my everything." They kissed, soft and sweet, a kiss that held years of love and commitment and shared life, on their 40th wedding anniversary, the whole family gathered at the ranch for a massive celebration. Children and grandchildren came from all over, filling the main house and spilling into tents set up around the property. There was music and dancing, incredible food and endless laughter. Hope, now a mother and grandmother herself, stood to give a toast. "To my parents," she said, raising her glass. "Mama and Papa, you have shown us all what true love looks like. Not the easy, romantic love of storybooks, but the real love that chooses to show up every day, that works through hard times, that builds something lasting. Papa, you chose to be my father before I was even born, and you have never wavered in that choice. You taught me what it means to be a good parent, a good spouse, a good person. Mama, you showed me that strength comes in many forms and that courage is often quiet. You both built something beautiful together, and we are all the beneficiaries of that love. Happy anniversary." The toast was met with applause and more than a few tears. Harrison and Amelia stood together, overwhelmed by the love surrounding them. This family, this legacy they had built, had started with a simple choice on a train platform 40 years ago. Harrison had seen a frightened young woman who needed help, and he had said that baby needs a father. From that moment of compassion had grown this incredible life. As the party continued into the night, Harrison pulled Amelia aside for a dance. They swayed together to the music, moving slowly, content in each other's arms. "Any regrets?" Amelia asked, echoing the question she had asked so many times over the years. "Not a single one," Harrison answered, as he always did. "You? Only that I did not have more years to spend with you. However many we get will never be enough. Then we will have to make every day count," and they did. They spent their remaining years together in joy and contentment, watching their family grow and flourish. They sat on the porch in the evenings, holding hands and watching the sun set over the mountains. They took rides through the property, Harrison helping Amelia into the saddle even when his own bones ached. They loved their grandchildren and great-grandchildren, passing on stories and wisdom. Harrison passed away peacefully in his sleep at the age of 82, Amelia beside him as she had been for over 40 years. His last words to her were, "Thank you for the best life a man could ask for. I love you, Amelia. Always." Amelia grieved deeply, but took comfort in her family and her memories. She lived another 5 years, long enough to see Hope's first great-grandchild born. She passed away sitting in her rocking chair on the porch, looking out over the ranch she and Harrison had built together. At her funeral, Hope stood to speak. Now an old woman herself, she spoke with the wisdom of years. "My mother once told me that sometimes the worst moments of our lives lead to the best." She stepped off a train pregnant and terrified, and she found a man who saw past circumstances to the person beneath. "My father chose love over judgment, compassion over convenience. Together, they built a legacy that extends far beyond this ranch or this family. They showed us how to love without conditions, how to choose each other every day, how to build something that lasts. They started with nothing but hope and determination, and they created all of this." She gestured to the crowd of family members filling the church. "I am grateful every day that Papa saw Mama on that platform and said that baby needs a father. Because in choosing to be my father, he gave me the greatest gift possible, a family built on love." Harrison and Amelia were buried side by side on a hill overlooking the ranch, their graves marked by a simple stone that read, "Harrison Ellis and Amelia Ellis, beloved parents and grandparents, together always." Near their graves, Hope planted a garden, filling it with flowers that bloomed year after year, a living memorial to the love story that had started on a train platform and lasted a lifetime. The ranch continued to thrive for generations, passed down through the family, each generation adding to the legacy Harrison and Amelia had built. And whenever a family member faced a difficult choice, when compassion and judgment stood in opposition, they remembered the story of how it all began. They remembered a cowboy who saw a pregnant woman step off a train and chose kindness. They remembered his simple words that changed everything, that baby needs a father. And in remembering, they were inspired to choose love, to offer compassion, to build rather than tear down. The legacy of Harrison and Amelia Ellis lived on not just in the land and the horses and the success of the ranch, but in the values they had instilled, the love they had shared, and the example they had set. It had started with a moment of choice, a decision to help rather than turn away. And from that single moment had grown a love story for the ages, a family that spanned generations, and a legacy that would never be forgotten. In the wild, unforgiving landscape of 1880s Nevada, two people had found each other against all odds and built something beautiful. Their story was proof that love, real and lasting love, is not about perfect circumstances or easy choices. It is about showing up, day after day, and choosing each other. It is about seeing past what is to what could be. It is about faith and hope and the willingness to take a chance on something uncertain. Harrison and Amelia had taken that chance, and in doing so, they had created magic.